And we got trophies.
That is awesome. Thank you very much. Put that right here. Good afternoon. I'm not an orator, but I wrote a speech, so I hope you don't mind giving me a few minutes to talk to you. I would like to thank the Indie Author Project, Library Journal, and librarians across Texas who chose my novel To Squeeze a Prairie Dog as the winner of this award. I would also like to thank the Texas State Library and Archives Commission for hosting this event. And even though I am considered an indie author, it takes a team of professionals to publish quality books. So I would like to thank the fine folks who helped me mold and polish To Squeeze a Prairie Dog into an award-winning novel, and they are Brandon Wood and Lori Hoadley for editing, Andrew Leeper for cover design, and David Aretha at Yellowbird Editors for proofreading. And thank you all for your hard work. I was initially interested in the Indie Author Project because of their commitment to connect libraries, their hardworking librarians, and their readers to the local writers in their communities, something that I immediately recognized had parallels to the Buy Local movement. And many of you may be beneficiaries of the Buy Local movement, having fallen in love with your local farmers markets, independent bookstores, or artisan shows. And if you've supported local businesses in Austin like Alamo Draft House or Book People or Waterloo Records, then you are part of this movement. And with the Indie Author Project and community libraries, what they are telling readers in essence is to read local. There are hundreds, if not more, excellent indie writers in the state of Texas who are publishing novels, memoirs, history books, and more that are of equal quality to what is being published by the Big Five publishers in New York City. If you subscribe to the notion that quality books are only published by these Big Five publishers, then you might as well say that quality food only comes from big corporations. If you have purchased excellent produce at a farmer's market, or eaten a delicious meal at a local cafe, or sipped an exceptional craft beer brewed in your neck of Texas, then you know without a doubt that big corporations are not the only place to buy these types of products. Books of the highest quality are being published all across Texas by indie authors like me and Michelle Renee. The Indie Author Project, Library Journal, and libraries across Texas are leading the way in the discovery of these great writers through their curated collections. That way the patrons of libraries know that they are checking out books of high quality, which is pretty amazing if you ask me. I'm very pleased that my novel won this award. I am honored to represent the indie author fiction writing community of the state, which has a great tradition of storytelling. My novel at its core is about friendship between a diverse cast of characters and the camaraderie they share while working in the trenches of state government. What is more appropriate to represent Texas, whose state motto just happens to be friendship, than a novel about the friendship between a country bumpkin, an African-American matriarch, a middle-aged single mother, a manager with a propensity for mischief, and a gigantic young man of Mexican and Japanese descent. Their friendship is the glue that holds my novel together. I also wanted my novel to have a positive ending, and I'm pleased to see it resonate with so many people, which has sent that positivity back to me. If you would indulge me a little longer, I would like to talk about the two important women who inspired me to write this novel. I dedicated To Squeeze a Prairie Dog to these two amazing women. First, there is Margaret Downs Gamble. She was my English professor during my freshman and sophomore years at the University of Texas right here in Austin. Before college, I was not enamored with literature. The only pages I burned through were either Marvel comic books or newspaper comic strips. But once I attended Margaret's English classes at UT, I discovered that I loved great literature, and as it turned out, I was quite good at analyzing it. And to my parents' utter surprise, I declared English as my major, and I never looked back. If someone ever wanted to retrace the steps I took as a writer that got me here today, standing behind a podium and accepting a book award, then those steps would lead back in time to Margaret Downs Gamble's classroom at UT. That's where my writing career began. And if any of you have had a teacher in your life that inspired you, then you will understand why I dedicated this novel to my teacher, Margaret. Second, many of you may or may not know that most writers have an audience of one, the single person that they are hoping to impress with their new story. My audience of one for To Squeeze a Prairie Dog was my wife, Lori Hoadley. She was the one I wanted to impress, to make laugh, and to cry. When I was first working on this novel, I gave her some vague tidbits about the story. I mentioned some of the characters and what their motivations were. But for the most part, I kept the story close to me. I wanted Lori to enjoy the story without preconceptions, and I wanted her to discover the lives of J.D. Wiswall, Rita Jackson, Deborah Martinez, Brent Baker, and Conchino Gonzalez with fresh eyes. When she began reading my book, I was chomping at the bit, as they say. I wanted her to love my story and love my cast of characters. So when she finally came to me a little teary-eyed, a little forlorn because of what I did to one of my characters late in the story, I knew I achieved my goal of creating a story and cast that my wife loved, that she connected with, and that she cared about. And if Lori felt this way about my cast of misfits at the fictional state agency of the Texas Department of Unemployment and Benefits, then I knew that the other readers would feel the same way. So thank you, Lori, for supporting me and being my editor and #1 fan. And thank you, Indie Author Project, Library Journal, and the Librarians of Texas for choosing my novel as the 2019 Texas Author Project winner for adult fiction. I'd like to end my time here by sharing a statistic that was released recently by a 2019 Gallup poll. According to the Americans Report of Leisure and Activities, going to a library was the top leisure activity for Americans, outpacing going to a movie to see a movie at a movie theater by almost 2-to-1. Americans go to their library 10.5 times a year, which I find amazing. But we can do better. Let's try to make it 12 times a year or more. So be good to each other, read more books, and support your local library. Thanks.